So after a short week with the dramatic overtime win against Georgia Tech, the Vols made their first trip into Neyland Stadium for the 2017 season against the Indiana State Sycamores. It ended up being a cakewalk. Wasn't much of a competition for the Vols. So we are finally officially in Gator Hater Week. The Vols are set to play the Florida Gators Saturday, 3:30 in the Swamp. This is Talkin VAWLS, Episode 3 for the 2017 season. I'm Vols JP.
And I am the artist formerly known as the Trainwreck of 76. That would be our main. Got to switch it up a little bit. The Trainwreck wasn't working for me, so.
It wasn't working for you, Trainwreck?
Nah, I'll stick to my social media usernames for that. So.
Gotcha. Before we get started, just want to give a shout out to Boogie Bentley again. Certainly, you and your family are in our thoughts and prayers, Boogie, and we just want to know that we're here for you. If you need anything, we are here for you, and we are certainly keeping you all in our thoughts and prayers.
Yep, absolutely. Thoughts and prayers. We miss you. We love you. And like JP said, we're here for you if you need us.
Well, what did you think about Indiana State versus Tennessee on Saturday inside Neyland Stadium?
Well, it was kind of what we expected on it. I think I said 66. I was obviously a little off on that one, but it was just they just kind of took care of business. Wasn't anything overly impressive. Wasn't really anything underwhelming. Maybe a thing or two we didn't like, which we've discussed beforehand. We'll discuss in a little bit, but it was what it was. They come in, they got out. I think they got out injury free, which was the hope there.
Yeah, certainly. I think the only injury that I'm aware of, or at least a significant injury potentially, was Eli Wolf, the tight end, younger brother of Ethan. So I think he went down. I heard an actual ankle sprain. So
That's what
I
I
thought
heard
it.
too. So that may not, he may miss a little bit of time, but doesn't look like it's going to be a significant portion by any means.
Yeah, certainly. When I first saw that, I thought it was either probably a knee injury or maybe even a quad injury.
Mm-hmm.
Or a hamstring or something. But the initial reports that I'd heard was an ankle injury. So hopefully it's not too awful severe, and at least he can get back at some point in time this year. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we knew that Indiana State was going to be outclassed. We knew that there wasn't really going to be much of a competition there. It was going to be more of Tennessee just getting some more experience, getting their players in there, getting some experience. Certainly saw some bright spots. Of course, certainly start the game off in electrifying fashion with Ty Chandler taking the opening kickoff to the house for 91 yards, was just barely touched. And uh, I thought Carlin Fields and me, I think he was kind of rode off to begin the season with Chandler coming in and backing up John Kelly. But I know it was Indiana State, but you got to be impressed with the way that he ran. He ran hard. He was actually um, the one that was actually going in there and actually getting those tough yards. And I mean, he laid a lick on that linebacker down there at the goal line on that first touchdown, and then that second touchdown, he showed off his speed and just outran them around the end. So very impressed with him as well.
Yeah, I agree. And my impression was always he was more of kind of a finesse back or something. But
Mm-hmm.
man, he looked anything but it when he, like you said, got tough yards and he put that head down and laid a lick on. And I always thought he was pretty quick, and he showed that off when he broke that long touchdown. But I don't think he already touched the ball after that, did he?
No, that was, and we'll get into this here in a little bit, I'm sure, but that was one thing. It was kind of like in the second half, I'm not for sure how many touches that he actually had. I don't think that it was many, even if he touched the ball at all.
Yeah, I think
Which,
the way it looked, I think what about all the backup backs got about 3 to 4 carries, looks like. So,
yeah, that's
hard to tell anything off that.
yeah, yeah. I think that Tennessee special teams is certainly one thing that continues, and we can say that we question Jones about some things and some of the assistant coaches and some of the different areas of the football team, but special teams seems to always be something that Jones has done really well down there at Tennessee, and we didn't miss a beat with Evan Berry taking the week off, with Chandler running that back, and you know Trevor Daniel. I mean, the guy is just an absolute weapon at that punter position. I laughed when he was preseason third team All SEC. I'm
Yeah,
like, you got to be kidding me.
yeah, that's a joke right there. I mean, there's not a better punter in the conference than Daniel. I really don't think there is, and there's probably not many nationally that are better than him, if any.
Yeah, I saw a stat through 2 games. He's averaging a little over 47 yards a punt. I mean, that's pretty strong right there. That is just awesome to see, and he continues to be a weapon for Tennessee. Uh, whether it's flipping field position or pinning a offense down deep inside their own territory and having to go a long distance down the field. So those continue to be positives. Quarterback play again. Certainly Dormady with he threw the interception there in the end zone, which you can't have that, and then he got that strip sack. Thought the offensive line. Uh, Thought Drew Richmond again struggled, which is a concern. It looked like that Trey Smith kind of struggled some yesterday as well after having a pretty good performance against Georgia Tech. So I guess that we just got to remember that he is an 18-year-old true freshman, and he's going to have those growing pains like that. But um, you got to love the upside with him for sure. And Garantano, he came in. I was interested to see Butch put him in that drive when Tennessee was backed up towards their own goal line there. Um, Put him in. Kind of missed a couple of throws there. He threw that one pass over the middle. I can't remember if that was intended for Wolf or what, but I mean, he had some absolute zip on that. I don't know if Jerry Rice could have caught that ball.
Yeah, he's got a cannon on him, that's for sure. I thought Dormady played a pretty good game outside of the couple things you mentioned. Now they did miss Josh Palmer a couple times. I think Dormady missed him at least once, and Garantano missed him as well. But I thought Dormady was pretty good outside of the couple mistakes, in which he owned up to them and stuff, and hopefully he won't make them again. Garantano, I mean, he's a redshirt freshman, and it showed a little bit. Now, he threw a nice ball. I think it was to George once, and George dropped it. That
Dropped
should
it.
have been a catch right there. So, we're still seeing the drops. We saw them week one. We're seeing them week two. They've got to get that under control going forward,
Certainly.
because we can't afford them. I mean, you never can, but certainly not now.
Yeah, I thought that it was evident that they were trying to get Josh Palmer some actual in-game play, some balls thrown his way, like you said. Um, he very easily could have had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter on long passes that Dormady just overthrew him, and then Garantano overthrew him there later on. in the game as well. But definitely, it appears that Callaway is going to be our go-to receiver, obviously with Jennings out, and that they're going to look to get Josh Palmer. Certainly looks to be that number 2 receiver. We'll be interested to see against Florida whether Josh Smith makes it back. Of course, they held out Latrell Williams yesterday as also, and Tyler Bird. So the receiving corps was kind of thin yesterday, but you've really got to be encouraged by what you've seen out of Callaway and the potential that Palmer has shown.
Well, and I think Brandon Johnson, too. I mean, he had the touchdown yesterday as well where Dormady checked off. I was reading about, so that was a good play there. But I think Johnson's going to be one of our go-to guys, too, along the way.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed through 2 games, and I meant to mention this again after the Georgia Tech review that we done last week, is I felt like that Tennessee's receivers are playing more physical than they ever did underneath Azani. I noticed it there Monday night against Georgia Tech. Callaway, I mean, he was fighting the defensive back. He was fighting to get in there to make that play, and I think that's a positive, certainly, that we've seen.
I think it is too, and of course we'll see. We'll really find out what they got this week because Florida's always tough in the secondary. But yeah, I agree with you. It seems like they're, how many years have we talked about them being, I wouldn't say soft, but not really physical either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had guys make plays and this and that, but yeah, this looks like a bunch. It's, definitely go fight hard to make a catch and make a play.
Yeah. Moving on to our defense. When you look at the stats, it wasn't too awful bad. I think we gave up 125 yards or so rushing against Indiana State. Of course, we only gave up seven points. Anytime that you give up 7 points a ball game, I'm going to be happy. I don't care who that you're playing. And I thought that it was big that we didn't give up any third down conversions.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was, I mean, it wasn't, I don't think anything wowed us over it, but they did what they were supposed to do. And again, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be sweep left, sweep right all day long either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was basically all Indiana State ran for the most part. So it was, there were some things you could pick apart on it, but, like I said, no third down conversions, which is huge, and only 7 points. I think I seen the total they give up was like 215 yards. That's not a bad day right there. That's not bad.
No, it wasn't. I still have concerns about this linebacking core. And I'm starting to feel like that I knew that we were going to miss Derek Barnett and his pass rushing ability, but I think that he was so good at playing the run too, but because he was getting all these double-digit sacks and he ends up breaking Reggie White's school record for sacks, I think that's what a lot of people remember him by, but the way that he was able to play the run as well, and I think that has been evident. I think our defensive ends are certainly struggling to set the edge. We're getting upfield way too much, and they're just cutting right inside of us, or they're not stringing it out, and they're letting the running back get to the outside.
Yeah, I don't think we realized how much we was going to miss Barnett. I think we knew we would, obviously. We knew it'd be a big loss, but, there's nobody even close to him down there right now that can, because, I mean, man, when he was on, he could take a game over. I mean, how many times did he do that where he he just flat out took it over, and we're not seeing it right now. I think Taylor, I think the best option going forward is Taylor and Phillips. Kongbo he's not showing me anything right now, and maybe that'll change.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Kyle Phillips actually showed more certainly yesterday than Kongbo did. Kongbo looks, I don't know, for him to be as big and athletic as they say he is, he just doesn't look comfortable. And I know that, he hasn't really played a whole lot of football uh, in his career. I mean, even, I don't think he played like one year of high school football. So he is very, very raw. So, I'm not giving up on him or anything like that, but I think Kyle Phillips looks more comfortable right now, and I think that he can probably help us more than Kongbo can.
Yeah, I think what I would like to see, and I know they're going to rotate some guys around. Well, it's at least what they say anyway, but I think your best lineup in there on the line is Phillips, Tuttle, McKenzie, and Taylor. And I don't, Vickers can come off a bench. He does okay, but I think your higher potential there is with those four guys. I think that's where you're going to get the most out of anything.
Yeah. And speaking of Tuttle, we saw him back yesterday. He played quite a bit there in the second quarter, I believe it was, that he came in and played. I'm not for sure if he played any after halftime or not. I'd have to go back and look and see. But he definitely probably got, I'd say, 12 to 15 snaps. It looked to me like.
Yeah, he was
Of
in.
course,
He was in a good bit.
yeah, yeah, and I saw an interview with him after the game, and he said he was certainly trying to knock off some rust, and he uh, definitely, I don't think felt like that he's where that he wants to be as far as um, having just that game mentality and stuff. I'm sure that he's probably still got that in his mind, coming off two injuries and back-to-back years and stuff like that. But um, I look for him next week against Florida. I look for him to be a major contributor. I think that we'll see him probably play, hopefully more than any defensive tackle that we've got.
Yeah, and that's. I think it's got to be him and probably McKenzie for the most part. I think that's your two. But I noticed again yesterday, still lining up a yard off the ball.
Yeah,
I don't really know what's up with that right now. Maybe that'll change this week.
I
But you
don't either.
but you brought up a point, and the linebackers. I'm kind of concerned about them. And after Monday night Georgia Tech, I don't see how Batuli is not in that lineup all the time. I think he's proven, and just based off, he's probably got more speed than about any of them playing. And I just think he's got to be in there, and because it just doesn't look to me like linebackers have a lot of speed, and that's
Yeah.
when we get in these better teams, that's going to get exposed. If
There
not, I
is
mean,
no. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, that's all right. I mean, to me personally, I think your fastest ones, if you put them out there, would be Batuli and Elliott Berry. I think Berry has pretty decent speed when he's played, and because Jumper does a decent job, he's just not fast enough, and I just don't think McDowell's very fast either.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that was a head scratcher with me yesterday. That was one. Colton Jumper played the whole game, except the last series, and I just don't understand it. I just cannot understand what Jones and Shoop and Thigpen are thinking, because you're right. When we get in, even Saturday, against Florida. I mean, we're going to see it, and these teams, that McElwain is sitting there thinking, well, we're gonna run wide until they stop it, and then when they stop it, then we're going to try to hit them right up the gut because that's what Georgia Tech did.
Yeah.
But Jumper, like I said last week, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and down the kid. I'm not going to do it, but you've got to get your most talented players on that football field. And Jumper, he's in position sometimes, but even when he is in position, it's like he struggles wrapping up. He kind of just bounces off of people. Um, and then a lot of times, especially on those outside runs, he's just not quick enough. And if Indiana State can get to the edge, then there's no doubt in my mind that Florida, and Lord, I don't even want to see what Sony Michel and Nick Chubb can do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fact. And it's even like I said, if you shut down the outside, at some point they're going to go across the middle, and we saw it last year with Georgia. If you're facing a team for good tight end, they're going to wear us out across the middle, right
Oh
there
yeah,
on it.
and that tight end that Indiana State had yesterday, I'd probably dare say that he was probably the best player on that team.
He was a
He
good
looked like,
player.
yeah, he was. So, and he burned us there a couple of times too. He caught some balls across the middle. So I just that is a head scratcher. I don't understand why that we didn't get Will Ignont in the game, except for the very last series, last 47 seconds. I don't understand that. I mean, we had plenty of opportunity to get those kids in there like him. Uh, DeAndre Johnson, he got in there at the very end. I saw Bennett in there. That's what I just don't understand, why that we still had our first and maybe our second string, or, well, really our first string mainly, in all the way up to the very end, when we've got players like that we've got to get ready, and that is going to have to help us at some point in time this year. And we had a great opportunity to do it Saturday, but we didn't do it. And it just it frustrates me. I mean, it honest to goodness, it frustrates me. I don't understand how that we are managing the depth chart and the players down there. It just makes me just scratch my head.
Yeah, I agree. I was annoyed by it too because I mean that game was in check by halftime. They were not coming back or anything like that. So I too. I mean, we talked about it before we went on. Why is Kelly still carrying the load midway to the end of the third quarter?
Yep.
You talk about wanting to play more players and this and that. That's the time to get them in. Don't put them in with a minute to go in the game like you did with Ignont and DeAndre Johnson. If you want to build depth, they need to be playing that second half because that game was over. Indiana State, again, they were not going to come back. So that's the time to do it, and that blows my mind like it does yours.
Yeah. I don't understand it. I mean, Ty Chandler, I'm not even for sure that he got even any carries in the second half. He ended up with 4 for the whole game, I think.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I seen Kelly, I saw Jordan and Coleman, I know for
yeah,
sure. And I can't say I remember Kelly, or I'm not Kelly, but Chandler or Phil's on me, either one carry it in the second half that I
yeah,
can remember.
yeah, yeah. And why on earth that we had Kelly out there in the second half? Just I don't know. I mean, I can't give a valid reason as to why. I hope that some of the media down there in Knoxville, asked Jones that on his weekly media session this week, because of course I'm sure he'll come up with some kind of generic response, or whatever. But I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me, and I know that we got players down there like Ignat and those type of guys like that. And yes, I understand that they're young, and yes, I understand that they're going to make mistakes. And I understand that Colton Jumper has been in the program for 4 years or 5 years, and he knows all the calls supposedly, and all that kind of stuff. But if he's not athletic enough to be in position to make the play, then what does it do? It's almost like that this coaching staff just does not trust their young players. And that's really surprising to me because when Jones got down there, maybe it was out of necessity, but, he was playing a lot of younger freshmen and sophomores and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was the biggest complaint that I had out of yesterday is we had a perfect opportunity. I felt like it was a perfect game to get experience. We talked about it leading up to the game, how we felt like that this would be a great opportunity and a great game to get some of these younger kids in, get them some actual game experience, and I felt like that we didn't do it for whatever reason.
No, that was my big complaint too with it yesterday because these young guys are going to be needed before it's over, and especially some, if you're not going to redshirt them, play them in a game like this, just plain as that, because if you keep these guys in too long, all of a sudden you get another big injury, that's going to be senseless right there. And, this week, of course, it's going to be your main guys playing. But the week after that is UMass. That's another game. These young guys need to play. And, in the past we've seen it. It's taken the Florida game for them to realize that they need to get these young guys ready. That goes all the way back to Fulmer right there.
Fulmer, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So, it's hopefully that we can figure out how to play better defense, or it's going to be potential struggle all year long. I know that I said last week that I was going to reserve judgment until we played a more typical offense, a more typical team. I don't really think that we really learned anything yesterday per se. Tennessee has not even ran a blitz all year long. You've got to think that that's going to change this Saturday. You have got to think.
I think it will. This will be the first traditional offense we've seen this year because, like I said, Indiana State was basically sweep left, sweep right, roll out. That was all they did, and there was no pressure. And, like I said, I don't know if that was by design. I don't think they sent the linebackers any, but still we weren't really getting any pressure either on them. But I think we'll learn a lot more this week facing a traditional offense because something's going to have to give because I'm not sold on Tennessee's defense. Florida's offense is not very good either, so something's going to have to give right there.
Certainly, yes. Yeah, certainly something is going to have to give. Before we jump in to the old Gator week, let's talk a little bit about recruiting. We're going to try to bring all you Talkin Ball listeners updates on some recruiting each and every week. For the Indiana State game, there wasn't any actual official visitors that came in from what I'm aware of, but there was some local kids that are committed, like Cade Mays and that Ollie Lane and Jacob Warren. Evidently, supposedly they were in Knoxville, which doesn't really surprise you. I do think that they had an unofficial Caleb Johnson out of Georgia. He's a defensive end. Believe more of a rush end that the Vols are looking at. I think that they may have some momentum with him. I think he was in town, and some of the commits that Tennessee has this year, I think that the coaches were on the road. Some of them were. They were checking out the Jamarcus Chatham kid that's committed, and his teammate was that Adam Anderson. And I know, Trainwreck, you mentioned him a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. think on 247 he's #1 rated linebacker, but the possibility of him maybe becoming a rush end as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it seems to me. Like with his size, that's a possibility there. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen when he decommitted from LSU, it was going to be a long shot. But with Chapman as his teammate there, I mean, he's in his ear, and they seem to keep gaining a little momentum. Now, will that pay off in the end? I don't know. From what I've seen, it seems like Georgia and Alabama are probably the top two for him, but definitely doesn't hurt, and I would imagine you'll see him in Knoxville probably for the Georgia game would be my guess.
Yeah, probably so. He was one of the attendees Monday night in Atlanta for the Georgia Tech game. Um, um, haven't really heard an update on, if he said anything. Of course, like we talked about last week, they couldn't really interact with the coaches or anything like that. But I think that it's certainly a positive sign that he showed up, and it certainly seems like that he is at least giving Tennessee a realistic look, and it's not just totally just not interested in them. So be interesting to see down the road. I know one player that we mentioned last week was DeAndre Lideker, and he was actually injured again Friday night. Said he had to be carted off. I heard that it was a knee injury, but I don't know if they've determined what that is. And from my understanding, this is his second major injury, if it is in fact a knee injury. So you got to feel for that young kid, and certainly hope that it's not anything that's real serious, and that he can get back to um, fully recovered.
Yeah, that's I mean, what can you say about it? It's like you said last week, the program just seems snake bit sometimes with the injuries, even trickling down to the high school ranks at this point.
Yeah, I know it. And then Thursday night, Eric Berry, he's lost for the year for the Chiefs, and you're thinking, it's even our VFLs that are getting seriously injured. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it happens to all of these programs, and we just don't follow them as closely, I guess. But man, it sure does seem like Tennessee has their number of injuries to key contributors. It was just like, I was sitting there, honestly, I was sitting there in the first quarter when I saw, really how outmanned that this Indiana State team was. And every time that Kelly touched the ball, I was just holding my breath.
Yeah, you
Because
about
I
got to
was
at this
just,
point.
yeah, I was just like, man, I was like, get him out of there. I mean, I was even saying, let's get him out of there in the first quarter. But um, thankfully, other than like we said, the one injury to Eli Wolf, it doesn't appear that Tennessee um, experienced any significant injuries there. Well, moving on to Florida week. This is the week that most Tennessee fans look forward to every year in early September. We all know the heartache and the heartbreak that we have experienced at the hands of the Florida Gators. We know about Steve Spurrier. We know about him and Fulmer. We know about all the times that Tennessee has seemingly had the game and found ways to lose. And it seemed like even last year in Knoxville that it was going that way. When we was down 21-3, I was sitting there in total disgust. I was tempted to even leave because I just was not going to sit there and witness those Florida fans just ag it on. And of course, we know all of that changed, and it was the biggest win in Jones' tenure at Tennessee. So what can we expect this Saturday, 3:30, nationally televised game in the Swamp against the Florida Gators? What do you think?
Well, I mean, a lot of unknowns right now. I mean, a lot of unknowns about Florida. They played one game so far. They look to be a pretty young team from what I'm looking at, I'm looking at their depth chart now. I see that they've got one senior starting on offense. That's Brandon Powell, which he's more of a slot type guy, it looks like. Their quarterbacks, the first game they rotated quarterbacks. It wouldn't surprise me to see them play up as many as 3 quarterbacks if it needs it Saturday. And, I don't know. We talked about it earlier. The line opened at, I think it opened at 8.5, actually, and you mentioned that. I just don't see it. It's so unknown this week. We don't even know where the game's going to be played at. So that's about par for the course for this week, it seems like. No doubt. But something's got to give, offense versus defense. I don't think Florida's got a good offense. Obviously, we don't know if Tennessee's got a good defense. Florida's defense is going to be pretty good, I would imagine. I don't know if it's what it's been before. That was a pretty stout defense they had last year, and Tennessee torched them, especially in the second half. So I think there'll be, if the line will block, I think there's a possibility we can put some points on them. But, who knows, man? It's a kind of a weird week, it seems like. But one thing that's consistent is I hate Florida, and my blood's already boiling for this week.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, Florida actually returns 15 starters, or at least that's what they were saying at the beginning of the season. But now they lost a lot of talent on that defense. They returned 6 starters, I believe, on defense. Most of their starters that returning were on offense, which we know that might be a good thing because they were so bad last year on offense. But I think that they lost a ton of talent on defense. And even though that they've got talent, I'm not saying that they don't have talent. This is not McElwain. The last 3 years has not recruited down there the way that even Muschamp did, and certainly not the way that Urban Meyer did, or Spurrier. So it's not like Bama. It's not like where they just plug in another 5-star and they never and they don't miss a beat. I watched quite a bit of that Michigan game, and of course their offense really only scored three points. Florida's did. They ran 2 interceptions back for touchdowns. But it really wasn't that it was just great plays by Florida. It was really just bad offense by Michigan. Um, and so certainly they've got problems. They were pretty pedestrian. I think they only gained 192 yards total offense against Michigan. And Michigan lost a lot on their defense from last year as well. So who knows? Do I think that they're only going to gain 192 yards against Tennessee? No. I'm sorry. I wish that was the case, but I don't. I don't believe that at all. Um, but like you said, this is going to be a weird week until we find out exactly what's going to happen with this game that is scheduled for Saturday at 3:30 in Gainesville because of the hurricane that's coming through. We are recording this on Sunday, Sunday evening. I've heard so much that it's a possibility that they're looking at Atlanta, they're looking at Birmingham. I've heard that Florida's pushing to play Friday night in Atlanta. That there's a soccer game, an MLS soccer game Saturday in Atlanta, I guess, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not going to be an option. I think the Falcons must be playing at home on Sunday. So there's all kinds of just rumors out there. But Florida's AD pretty much said that they are only concerned at this point in time about the safety of the people there around Gainesville in the state of Florida, and they will assess the situation once that the hurricane has passed. So I don't really expect to see any kind of announcement probably either late Monday night or Tuesday.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that he mentions that because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this game's I mean, it's really
Means,
kind of meaningless. I mean,
oh, definitely.
I mean, with what they got coming, thoughts and prayers are with the people down there because it looks like
Certainly.
it's going to be rough down there. So really hope for all their safety down there and everything like that. I wouldn't even be disheartened if the game got moved, on account of that. But the way everything looks, that's just not possible unless they move the SEC championship game back a week. But you mentioned that there's Atlanta United plays at 4 on Saturday. Did see the Falcons are Sunday night game, so that would maybe allow a little bit of turnaround if they do that. But it seems to me like that's going to be kind of hard to do unless they did it on Friday night. So, I mean, Birmingham, I think I even seen Charlotte possibly mentioned
Mm-hmm.
as that. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
any
Yeah.
way you look, I agree with Tennessee on this that I don't want to have the game. I mean, obviously, I'd love to have the game in Knoxville, but that puts you going to Florida 2 years in a row, and that's going to make it rough next year because that would put them going to Florida and Georgia back to back. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand Tennessee's stance on that too, but it's basically going to come down to what the commissioner wants to do. I mean, if he wants it in Knoxville, it'll be in Knoxville.
Yeah, because I think after that debacle last year, where Florida pretty much just, I'll just go ahead and say it. I mean, they just wussed out, in my opinion, of that game last year against LSU. I think that was blatant, that they didn't want to play that game at that point in time because of injuries. But because of that, from my understanding, now the commissioner has the final say in this, that the SEC office is the one that will ultimately make the decision on this. And I've looked around, I looked today at possibilities of, is there any games that, Tennessee was supposed to play or Florida was supposed to play later on that, on the same weekend, that was buyout games or something like that. And there's really not anything like that. I mean, like you said, it's either going to have to be played this weekend coming up, or they would have to look to push it back, or push the SEC championship game back like they did, in 2001 after 9/11. But I don't know. Me personally, I want to play it this Saturday. I want to play it this Saturday. Number one, because Florida's got 10 players that are indefinitely suspended. Two of them are their best offensive players, Callaway and the running back Scarlett. And Florida is a mess offensively, and I think that it hurt them that they had to cancel their game yesterday against Northern Colorado, because that, of course, that game, not playing that game did not give them any actual game action like Tennessee had.
Yeah, and that's I mean, personally, I'd rather play them at full strength, but and that way, when Tennessee beats them, there's no excuses at that point. But I'm curious to see if the suspensions hold up this week or not. I'm really curious to see if all 10 of them it's indefinitely suspended or all of a sudden reinstated or not, because it's not going to surprise me one bit if those guys are playing this week.
Oh no, I won't be shocked one bit either, and I don't think really anybody has any concrete information on that. I've heard all kinds of stuff. You see all that message board chatter about how that, the attorney general or whatever in Florida's got it, and there's nothing that Florida can do, and there's nothing that McElwain can do about it. And then I've heard that, that Gainesville Police Department have this because it's credit card theft, and all that stuff, and that the university and athletic department, that their hands are tied and there's nothing that they can do. I mean, I do think that it is big. That I don't know if all 10 of these players, but I know for sure that Callaway, well, I won't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that Callaway and Scarlett have been indefinitely suspended from all team activities.
Well, and that's, like you said, that's their best two offensive players pretty much. So that's going to make a big deal right there on it. So it's
Yeah.
just a weird
Yeah.
week, man. It's just so much unknown with not only just the situations around the game, but the teams as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting week for sure right there. But I'm going to be curious to see where the game's played because Atlanta just kind of doesn't, with so much going on, I don't know that Atlanta is a real possibility unless you did do it Friday, right? Because you're not going to play a soccer game and turn around and just flip the field at that point and have a field ready to go in 30 minutes. I mean, to do
Yeah.
it on Saturday night. So,
Why not? Why not just cancel the soccer game?
well, you never know. That could be moved possibly, but
I think I know somebody that likes soccer. That's why I said that for.
yeah. I mean, I'm more of a Premier League guy. I mean, MLS is okay or whatever, but if it were Manchester United playing, I might have a different story on that. But yeah, Atlanta United, yeah, you could. I mean, you never know. They may move it to Friday night, possibly, if that's the case. But
Case, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what all goes into the MLS league and as far as the TV or anything like that. I don't know what all that deal is. Another, maybe a potential option is, they turned Turner Field into a football stadium. That's where Georgia State plays. But I think the problem with that, I think it only seats like 25,000 people when
yeah, so
they
that's probably
converted it. So yeah, I mean, I would I would imagine that the SEC wouldn't want to do that just because of the potential of lost revenue there.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I definitely don't think it's going to happen in Gainesville, and probably not in the state of Florida for that matter. Not what it looks like is coming up that way. So, yeah, I'd heard the Birmingham one. That would be, I guess, kind of interesting. Charlotte wouldn't be a bad one at all. I think the good thing about it, I think, is anywhere they come, whether it's Atlanta, Charlotte, Birmingham, or something, there'll be a lot more UT fans there than there would be in Gainesville.
Certainly, yeah, yeah. I certainly think that is the case as well. And I don't know about the potential of them playing even maybe in Jacksonville. I don't know how hard that Jacksonville is going to get hit with that storm since it came up, on the west coast of Florida. I guess that may be a potential possibility as well. I don't know what that stadium has going on next weekend. I know that I'm pretty sure that the Titans were supposed to play in Jacksonville next Sunday because I had heard that if that storm ravaged through there and they weren't able to play in Jacksonville next Sunday, that the Titans game with them may end up being swapped and they may end up playing in Nashville next Sunday instead of Jacksonville. But I guess maybe Nashville might be another possibility too, but I just have a hard time believing that Florida would be interested in playing anywhere in the state of Tennessee.
No, I couldn't see that either because that's going to be predominantly orange right there, and that'd be the best of both worlds for Tennessee because you're not losing a home game and you're basically gaining a home game in the same sense, kind of.
Certainly,
So it's
yeah.
it's unfortunate. I mean, I hate it, and the grant that it's having to be moved like that. I mean, it is unfortunately, Mother Nature takes toll sometimes on it. So it's as much as I hate Florida or whatever, there's a human aspect of it as well. I hate that the state and the school and all are having to go through this. I really hope it ends up not being as bad as what they're saying on it.
Oh yeah, certainly. I hope that uh, somehow, some way, that the storm certainly weakens and it doesn't have the damage. It doesn't do the damage that they certainly calling for and stuff, which I know that it's done quite a bit of damage already in South Florida, but hopefully that it won't be as bad throughout the entire state, and those folks will be safe down there. And you know, um, I have no problem going down to Gainesville and playing on Saturday. You know, I hope somehow, some way that's where it ends up being played, and there's not any reshuffling and having to go here or there or anything like that. But at this point in time, we just don't know, and I don't think anybody knows because they don't really know until that storm moves through what kind of damage that they're actually looking at, and how many people are going to be without power. What's the possibility of having power, EMS, security, what the roads are going to be like. I mean, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I would be really really shocked if it's played in Gainesville just based on all that you've seen, because all their emergency personnel, police, and everything's just gonna be slammed down there. And like I said, there may not even be power or anything down there, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. That's for sure.
Yeah. I did look at getting back to football here just a little bit. I did look at the stat line of Michigan's game with Cincinnati yesterday, and it was so similar to the stat line of that Florida game that Michigan had. Uh, as far as the total yards that Michigan gained was pretty much consistent, and the yards given up that both Cincinnati and Florida both gained on Michigan were like within 15 yards of each other. So makes you wonder, is Florida kind of on the level of Cincinnati? Of course, I know it's just a one game, but that's the only thing that we really have to look at. I don't think that there's no doubt in our mind that Florida struggles on offense is continued over from 2016. I know that they've got Flip Franks, who they thought was that 5-star quarterback, but he seems to be struggling. Then they brought in the transfer from Notre Dame, Zaire, and both of those guys really struggled. But the part I watched of that game, Michigan was able to control the line of scrimmage and get a lot of pressure on both of those guys, and obviously that's something that we haven't seen out of Tennessee yet.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's going. I really think they'll have a better offense than Michigan has going into this one, but at the same time, they're probably not going to have the defense of Michigan either. So, I mean, the key to me for Tennessee is they've got to get pressure back there. I mean, you
Hmm.
you can't let anybody sit back there and just pick you apart or anything. And if you give a Florida quarterback time, my guess is they're going to be able to throw the ball. But you put some pressure on them, that's going to be a different story right there. So that's key for Tennessee. And then on offense, I mean, can't shoot yourself in the foot. The line's got to block. The receivers have got to catch it. Um, you know, I would, going back to the Georgia Tech game, some of the throws Dormady made in the 4 and 5 coverage, you're not going to be able to do that this week, or Florida's
Mm-mm.
going to make you pay for it.
Yeah, unless Tennessee's defense just turns a complete 180 and Shoop has just been just playing vanilla, which I don't think happened against Georgia Tech. I think that we probably did play pretty vanilla against Indiana State, but I, I still go back to last year, where we was giving up all those 400 yards rushing games and all of that kind of stuff, and then we saw what happened there against Georgia Tech, and then the issues that we had trying to contain that sweep that Indiana State was running. I've got concerns with the secondary, but all of that, until that defense can prove to me that they are playing better and they can get pressure, Tennessee is going to have to win ball games by protecting the football and in special teams. they cannot turn the football over, and they're going to have to win special teams.
Now, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, I agree with you. That's going to have to score points. If the offense is struggling, that's where Daniel going to have to change the field right there. Offense will have to step up. I really don't know what else to add. I'm like you. It's going to have to be one on offense and special teams until defense proves me wrong on it.
Yeah.
But the good thing is this is probably going to be at least what it seems like. Now, it could change, but it seems like this will probably be one of the worst offenses we'll face this year.
Yeah. Yeah. If Florida, if we go down there Saturday and Florida rolls up 500 yards of total offense and scores 35 points or something, I'm not sure that Bob Shoop will be welcome back to the state of Tennessee.
No doubt about it. I think it's definitely feasible for them to not give up 400 or 500 yards. That shouldn't happen this week.
It shouldn't. No, it should not happen. From the way that Florida's offense was last year, and then the way that they looked so pedestrian against Michigan, we should not be giving up 400 and 500 yards to this Florida offense for sure.
No, I don't think so either. So it's, Dormady's going to have to be in control. He's got to be smart with the ball. The line's got to do their job Saturday, because this will probably be the stiffest test the line's faced so far. I mean, obviously they didn't face much yesterday, but they gave up some sacks yesterday, and this will definitely be the best defense we've faced. So we'll find out more about the offense this coming week for sure, and the defense. We'll find out a lot about both of them this week.
Yeah, that offensive line is going to have to ramp it up as far as the pass protection. Richmond about got Garantano's darn ribs broke yesterday on that one pass. I don't know. I mean, that's just poor effort, in my opinion. I mean, it's just poor.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he struggles this week. You'll be back to Kendrick at left tackle and Tatum at right tackle, or maybe even Kendrick left tackle, Jones at right tackle, and Boulware at left guard. Then it wouldn't surprise me a bit if Richmond struggles any.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if Tatum. I think that he was just kind of held out. I think he's got a little nagging knee injury. I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's just some pain and stuff. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I'm sure, from my understanding, he could have definitely have played yesterday if they felt like that they needed to. But yeah, that'll be interesting this week to see how they start out, because Richmond, to me, is still just not playing physical enough. He just doesn't seem like that all the time that the effort's there, and that concerns me, because we know no matter what Florida's got, they always have a couple of defensive ends that seem to find their way to quarterback.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they've definitely got some talent on that defensive side of the ball. So Tennessee needs to start fast this week. We don't need to be waiting until the third quarter to get going this week. They need to buck this trend and really come out fast this week. I mean, but it seems like, the last couple years, 2 years ago they would start fast and fade. Last year they would start slow and pick it up at the end. So, I mean, I'd like to see a full game for once against a good team.
Me too, Rocky.
I mean, because people's going to be on Jones if it is again. I mean, he could really use a resounding win over a good team. And this would be a good week for it, because, we talked about earlier, I don't see 8.5 point. I know that spread's already down to 5.5, and I expect that to go down even more, because I think Tennessee's got a real shot to win this game this week. I mean, a real shot at it.
Oh, I definitely think. I mean, I think that there is no doubt in my mind that this is a game that Tennessee, in my opinion, should win. I feel like that they've got the talent. I feel like that they've got the experience. I think that they offensively that they are definitely better than Florida. So I think it'll be close though.
Yeah, I
I
do too.
think it'll probably be the way that this game typically is. It'll either be a close Tennessee win or it'll be one of them that Tennessee turns the ball over 15 times and Florida runs it up on us.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But well, let's get into predictions. I'll start off this week because I know that the Florida week is near and dear to you, Trainwreck. So I'll let you finish off the predictions this week. But I think, like I just said, Tennessee has got to protect the football. They have certainly got to be able to keep Georgia, or excuse me, Florida. Lord, I'm thinking about Georgia. They have they've certainly got to be able to put pressure on Florida's quarterbacks. They've got to be able to contain Zaire, who I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get the majority of the snaps. They've got to be able to do that. I think, though, that it's huge that if the game is played Saturday and if those players are still suspended for Florida, I think Tennessee wins this football game. I think that they rely on John Kelly. I think John Kelly has a tough game. I think John Kelly gets 25 rushes. I think he probably gets 140 hard-fought yards. And I look for Tennessee to leave the swamp victorious 24-19.
All right. Well, this week for me, it's there's Florida, there's Alabama. Alabama's the more historical rivalry. This Florida one's been going on for a long time, and it annoys me to no end. I am a Gator hater. I'm at the top of the line. It goes back to Spurrier years. Him being a hometown guy here, I could care less. I have nothing for Spurrier. Urban Meyer, obviously cannot stand him. I mean, this game has brought out some real emotions for me, from wanting to rip a Florida flag off of a vehicle at church the next day after a win to um, Jones's second year when got beat 10-9. I went out and went full Hulk Hogan on a UT shirt and ripped it in half. This one brings out the emotions in me, and last year when we finally got over the hump, I was so happy after that. But enough of the tales. Going into this week, defense has got to put pressure on. You cannot allow, whether it's Franks or Zaire, if it gets bad enough, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Del Rio if it gets bad enough. But got to put pressure on. Can't allow them to get a run game going. I want to make them try to beat me passing it, I think. And if they can do that, that'll be a good thing. I worry about our linebackers. I'm really worried about the linebackers. I hope we'll see a lot of Batuli. Don't really know what our secondary's got yet because we hadn't really faced the passing team. So what we've seen hadn't been really impressive or anything. But Tennessee's got to take care of the ball. They got to get the run game going. They cannot shoot themselves in the foot. With that being said, I don't think the game's going to be in Gainesville. I think it'll shift to a venue where it's definitely, 50-50 at worst fan base. UT, if they come to Atlanta, I think UT will have the home field edge crowd-wise there. But I'm expecting a new streak to start, 2 in a row come Saturday. I'm going Tennessee 27, Florida. Well, I'm 24-17. Or, I'm sorry, 24-20. There we go. That's what I'm going.
24-20.
24-20.
Well, we are very, very, very close. 24-20 and 24-19.
Yep.
I tell you what, after all of the heartaches that we've had against that Florida Gator bunch, I would take a 3-0 victory. I would take a I would take a 2-0 victory. It doesn't matter.
No.
Just beat Florida and that fan base. Oh my gosh. And all of the bandwagon Florida fans too, that's been over the last 10 or 12 years, I guess since Spurrier won since Spurrier won that national championship in '96, and the way that fan base, especially around here in Northeast Tennessee, that didn't even have anything to do with Florida, and just because of whatever reason that they didn't like Tennessee, you saw all this Florida stuff, and now you see all these people riding around with these Florida flags and all that kind of junk, and just nothing but a bunch of bandwagon fans, which just irks me to no end. Just absolutely irks me to no end. So I'm hoping and I'm expecting that Sunday, when we're out and about next Sunday in Northeast Tennessee, throughout the state of Tennessee, them Gator fans will be shut up and they won't be having their flags out.
Yep, same here. That's because I normally have to see one at church the following Sunday every year. Doesn't fly at any other time except after that UT game, and that's another. Which the guy that flies it's actually an alum, so he's not a bandwagoner, but still yet it's.
Yeah. That's fine, I guess. That's fine, I'll give him that, but
Yeah.
I know a lot that doesn't have anything to do with the University of Florida, except they don't like Tennessee for whatever reason, so they jump on the bandwagon and want to wear that god awful blue and orange together, which is absolutely disgusting in my opinion.
Well, I remember a few years ago I was working down in, I think it was Churchill one day, and I'd seen this old gal pulled up in a car, and on the back had a big Gator thing on it, and it said, "Can't stop the Gator chop." And I looked at it and I said, "What the hell is the Gator chop?" I always thought it was the chomp. Like, so,
Chomp, yeah.
I don't even think you can't even get the right sticker on the back of it. I mean, come on.
Come on, yeah. Well, we will know in 6 days what this Tennessee volunteer football team has for 2017. We will know for sure whether or not that this team has what it takes that we feel like to compete for the SEC East, or is it going to be a struggle throughout the course of the year? Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Talkin VAWLS_pod. Be sure to leave us comments. Give us your score predictions when it's uploaded. Give us your. Be sure to like and share it. Interact with us. Let us know what you think that Tennessee needs to do to beat the Florida Gators. Let us know what's the score predictions that you've got. It's Gator Week. We know that they're dealing with the hurricane down there in Florida, and certainly our prayers are with all of the people down there in the state of Florida. But it's Gator Week. It's time to whip their ass.
And I'm going to steal one from Boogie Bentley from week 1. Florida, you can kiss my ass.
There you go. And I'm going to steal one more from our good friend Boogie Bentley as we're signing off here. Go Big Orange.
Jack Kerouac, he drank himself to death in New England, and I'd like to take his hand and say, Jack, man, it's okay. Now he's gone, and we're left to move along on without him. Dogs howl like that we call home, and it's night and I'm alone and